In terms of how you think this needs to be distributed, that's going to be a huge issue. Obviously, every nation is going to want to protect their citizens. But we have already seen governments trying to lock up supplies for drugs or vaccines that are going to be manufactured in their confines. What do you think about what is likely to happen, but what you think should happen?
Look, vaccine nationalism, it's called, keeping the vaccine for my country, is a natural response. Governments are responsible for the freedom and well-being of their citizens. But there's a limit to what they should do. And there's also some obligation to the world. If the whole world is suffering, your country's not going to get better, as New Zealand has shown us, if everyone else has a lot of COVID. It'll come back into your country. So we have obligations beyond our borders, too. So what we have proposed is that we actually, countries can have enough vaccine to get the transmission rate in their country down, but then they really do have an obligation to release vaccine into the world. And then the question is how you distribute it. Remember, vaccine manufacturers like AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, they have said that they think there should be fair and equitable and broad distribution of a vaccine among countries. The WHO has created this COVAX facility to buy vaccine and distribute it, and they say it should be a fair distribution. And then leaders of many countries, like Justin Trudeau of Canada, have said that there should be a fair and equitable distribution. What we've said is, what does fair and equitable mean in this context? Well, one of the things it means is you should distribute it based upon how severe the illness is in the country and how much death and premature death it's causing. I like to make the analogy, an emergency room doctor doesn't go to everyone waiting and say, all right, I'm giving everyone 5 minutes equally. No, they look at who's having the most severe health problems, who's got the heart attack, and they focus the attention there. And that should be the same approach with a vaccine. Where can the vaccine do the most in terms of saving lives initially? And then once you've saved a lot of lives and you've reduced the mortality rate, where can it do the most to reduce the adverse economic impacts of COVID? Those are the two primary considerations in distributing a vaccine among countries.
Where are the countries that are having the worst impact on both those counts?
Well, they're not New Zealand and Taiwan that have done a remarkably good job. There are places now like the United States, Brazil. You've got a lot of Latin America, which has a real rapid and high spread. But as you know, this has moved around, and predicting where the next hotspot is could be a little dangerous. It was initially Italy, but then it moved to the United States and to other countries. So we have to keep monitoring this and being focused. If it were today, it would probably be the United States, Brazil, Mexico, lots of Latin American countries. India would also be high up on that list. But as I mentioned, places like Taiwan, Italy, France wouldn't be high on the list. India would be high, as I mentioned, because they don't seem to have their arms around the problem.
We're not working with the WHO right now. Who would be responsible for coming up with some sort of a guideline to lay out how you determine where the vaccines go?
Well, that's a very interesting point. There's no global government and there's no focus. The best approximation we have is the WHO and this new arrangement they have called the COVAX facility with other organizations, Gavi and CEPI. We did say that we're not going to participate in that COVAX facility. I think that's short-sighted. The United States traditionally has been a leader in the world in terms of showing the right course, showing what's fair and equitable. But President Trump doesn't seem to think that participating with other countries, being collaborative, is the right mode. As you know, he's talked about pulling out of NATO and pulling out of lots of arrangements with other countries. That is not a sign of leadership. And I think that is not the way for the United States to demonstrate that it's really a world power, and not only a world power, but a moral world power that leads by doing the right thing and setting an example for other countries. Plus, he assumes that somehow the United States is going to have the vaccine. Maybe we're not the country that gets the vaccine. Maybe it's France or Russia. or Germany or Britain. And then we might be out of the running if we don't have arrangements.